Well, on the hills just a week ago of the Afghan refugee who shot the two National Guard members, killing one, and the administration talking about, hey, we need to do something about these people who are in our country. Now the Somali community is under the gun a little bit by the Trump administration for their involvement in what's been alleged in Minnesota to be a corruption scandal.
We're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country.
You just cannot call an entire community garbage, and this is coming from the President of the United States.
Yeah, ABC News Chief White House Correspondent Mary Bruce has more on the latest immigration operations that have come as a result of this.
Federal agents now hitting the streets of New Orleans. And in Minnesota, ICE now targeting the Somali community as the president doubles down on his attacks.
That beautiful land, that beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country.
The president calling Somali immigrants, quote, garbage. It comes as House Republicans launch an investigation into widespread COVID-era fraud involving some members of Minnesota's large Somali community.
So here's actually more of what Trump actually said this week at a cabinet meeting. And this was a cabinet meeting. I think it was one yesterday or the day before.
I think it was Monday. We're already on Thursday.
There we go. That was a long cabinet meeting too, by the way. But here's more of his actual comments.
We're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country.
I have words that I probably can't say.
Yeah, it's just hard.
Look, it's unacceptable. First of all, there should be some rules of decorum that we can expect from the leader of our country. Second of all, you cannot paint an entire population of people, call them garbage, call them people who refuse to work. It's so offensive. And Ilhan Omar is a U.S. citizen. She is an immigrant, but she's been in the country. She was naturalized 25 years ago. She's a member of Congress. And, it's so outrageous.
Yeah, so just the backdrop for this, just for our listeners. After or during COVID, the state of Minnesota, like every state, developed some programs to help kids and help communities and to help people so they could get by. And they had a specific program for providing lunches and food for children. And groups, of course, bid on this. And one group bid and actually billed the government hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, this was a huge fraud, and they didn't do anything. They didn't provide food. They didn't provide services. They didn't provide anything for the kids. I think something like 70 people have been charged, and a huge portion of that are Somalis. So I know. So there's some indication that this was somehow some Somali operation, but there just happened to be a large number of them. And so the state of Minnesota is obviously furious about it. They're doing their investigation, and the Trump administration is unfortunately looking at the group as a whole, not the individual
I have
criminals.
something to say.
I know.
There's a KSL.com article that was published this morning. Utah businessmen sent to prison for fraudulently obtaining $437,000 in COVID loans.
Right.
Can we say fraud is not good? It is also not limited to an immigrant community. So we actually have some texters. One texter says, just keep deflecting from the Epstein files. Another says, why don't the people's representatives do something about this? And another one asks, are we great again?
Yeah, great text. Minneapolis City Councilman Jamal Osman told ABC News that singling out his community is unacceptable.
If individuals breaks the law, it should be judged and those process. But labeling the entire community as fraud is unacceptable. And he continued to single out my community because somehow he doesn't like their belief or what they look like. This is not the America that I imagine. Somali community is a wonderful community. I encourage everyone to come have a coffee with us, have a tea with us, come to the Somali shops. And we add so much art, culture to this state.
Apparently, the Somali community is a fairly big group in the Minneapolis and in the Minnesota general area, something like 80,000 people, including, we just heard from a city council member. So they hold elected official positions, medical professionals. They're an active part of the community. Nonetheless, a group of them have been charged with this fraud. And again, it's problematic that we're sort of throwing out the baby with the bathwater and saying, well, because a group of Somalis have committed a crime, Somalis are bad and they should go back to their country. I mean, that's not the way we do things in America. On the other hand, people are really upset at the amount of fraud here. It's huge. It's astronomical.
Okay, again, I'll point out that yes, and just like the city councilman said, yes, we don't want people to commit fraud. We want them to be held responsible. It's the same thing with the Afghan national who shot the guardsman, or man and woman. That you can't paint an entire group because of the bad actions of one. So again, in Utah today, we had a Utah businessman sentenced for hundreds of thousands of dollars of COVID fraud. He's a white man from Utah. Right. And in Utah, we have an estimated 10,000 Somalis living in Utah. It's somewhere at least between 3,000 and 10,000. But we know we have 85,000 refugees in the state of Utah. And they are here to work hard, right? I mean, a lot of them did settle in Minnesota. Look, I am telling you, it is hard to be a refugee. It is hard to leave your country under duress. I've met refugees who literally left after their 4-year-old was decapitated by the Taliban and, left the head of their child was left on their doorstep as a warning, right? Are you going to leave? Yes, you're going to leave.
Right. No, and you've been very supportive of the refugee community. So obviously you have an inside track on this. A problem that you get when a leader in any capacity singles out a group is that citizens from the area might feel empowered.
Right.
And I think
that's right.
The Somali community has already felt the sting of some bullying and some calling out and some citizens saying, you need to go back to your country. You need to do this. You need to do that. Maybe even some threats. And I think that's going to continue because they're almost empowered by the speakers and the rhetoric that they're getting.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about this multiple times, and I'm not saying we're to the point of genocide. However, I will point out again, genocide does not start with the killing. That's the last of 10 steps. It starts with the dehumanization of other people. And when you call people garbage, right, when you say people are garbage, and our president labeled a woman a piece of garbage. That's not acceptable. That shouldn't be acceptable to us. But you're right. It can encourage other people who have those same type of sentiments. It can inflame fear. We know that there are now 19 countries where even if the people were already here in the U.S. and they had appointments for their citizenship ceremony, like they've done through everything.
Yep.
They've had it canceled,
Yeah,
right?
right
Because it's like, well, we don't like those people.
Right, and the immigration is sending additional ICE representatives into the Minneapolis area. There are several Somalis who are there, either have overextended their visa. Some have committed minor crimes that would allow them to be, or would require them, I guess, to be deported. And I think they're going to go through that community with a fine-tooth comb and see which people can be taken and deported and which can be left. But that's causing a lot of fear to the people who are here legally, wondering, boy, am I going to be under somebody's crosshairs?
Yeah, when you're canceling appointments and you have targeted people with green cards who are here legally, that's an issue, right?
Yeah.
It's an issue.